The icy wind howled across the frozen wasteland, making the small human expedition team struggle to keep their footing. Among them was Captain Elias Hunter, a seasoned explorer who had faced some of the harshest environments on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for the strange energy readings he had detected deep within this uncharted polar region. The scanner on his wrist buzzed continuously, pointing to something buried beneath the thick ice. Elias paused, staring at the endless white landscape. The snow stretched in every direction, cold and silent, broken only by the crunch of his boots. He knew the readings weren't natural. Whoever or whatever was beneath the ice could be ancient or alien. His pulse quickened. Could this really be another world secret hidden here on Earth? With gloved hands, he carefully dug through the frozen surface, using a portable laser cutter to crack the thick ice. As he chipped away, he noticed a faint shimmer underneath. Something was moving, or at least it seemed to be alive. Heart pounding. Elias bent closer. The light reflected off the ice, revealing a human-like shape curled up inside. At first, he thought it was a statue or some old scientific experiment frozen in time. But as the ice slowly cracked, he could see the subtle rise and fall of the chest. It was a girl. Not just any girl, she had features that seemed almost otherworldly. Her skin was pale, her hair long and silver, and her eyes, though closed, glimmered faintly as if she were aware of him. Elias' hands trembled slightly. He had discovered life, but it was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. He ran a quick scan. The results were impossible. Her heart was beating, her brain activity was normal, and oxygen levels were stable. The readings showed that she had somehow survived 6 months encased in solid ice. Elias stepped back, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. How could someone something remain conscious for so long without food or air? The scientific explanations failed him. Suddenly, the girl's eyelids fluttered open. Her eyes were a bright, shimmering blue, and they locked onto Elias. A shiver ran down his spine. He felt her awareness, calm, intelligent, and yet full of fear. She was conscious, fully aware, and staring directly at him. Elias spoke softly, unsure if she could understand him. "Can you hear me? Are you okay?" The girl didn't respond with words, but her lips moved as if trying to speak. Then she raised a hand and pointed towards the horizon. Something about the gesture made Elias uneasy. It was a warning or a plea. The air grew colder, and the wind seemed to carry strange whispers. Elias glanced around the empty wasteland. Was it just the wind, or was there something watching them? His instincts screamed that they were not alone. The alien girl's gaze never left his face, and Elias realized she was trying to communicate. To make him understand something critical, he wrapped a thermal blanket around her and carefully lifted her from the ice. She was surprisingly light, almost weightless. As he carried her back to the temporary camp, he couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery was bigger than anything humanity had ever known. Not just a frozen Gurlan alien. Life form conscious for 6 months and now awake. As night fell, the aurora borealis lit up the sky with swirling colors. Elias sat by the campfire, staring at her sleeping form, trying to understand how this could be possible. Who had frozen her, and why? And most importantly, what did her awakening mean for humans and for the universe? The silence of the night was broken by a faint whisper. Elias froze. He leaned closer. It was her voice, soft but clear. A single word. "Run!" Elias' heart raced. He didn't know what danger was approaching, but one thing was certain. The ice had held secrets, and now those secrets were awake. Whatever was coming next, humanity was about to face it, and this girl held the key. The alien girl stirred as the first rays of sunlight hit the frozen landscape. Her eyes fluttered open slowly, revealing the shimmering blue irises that seemed almost too bright to be natural. Elias watched in awe, unable to believe what he was seeing. She was awake, fully alert, and yet her movements were cautious, almost fearful. He knelt beside her, careful not to startle her. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now. I won't hurt you." For a moment, she didn't respond. Then, she raised a hand, palm facing Elias, and made a series of gestures that looked like a strange language of signs. Elias shook his head. "I don't understand." Her eyes widened, almost as if frustrated that he couldn't comprehend. Her tout suddenly, a sound came from her throat, a soft hum that vibrated in the air. Elias felt it through his chest. The tone was almost musical, and when he held his hand near her, he sensed a subtle energy flowing from her body. It was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The girl's gaze moved toward the sky, and she pointed upwards. Elias followed her hand, scanning the horizon. The ice stretched endlessly, silent and still, but something in her expression screamed warning. She was trying to tell him something important, something urgent. As Elias tried to communicate, he noticed that she was touching his hand lightly. A sudden wave of images flooded his mind. A world far away, strange cities of light and creatures, with forms he could barely comprehend. He stumbled backward, shocked by the telepathic connection. You're communicating with me," he whispered, "through your mind." The girl nodded slowly. It was clear now that she had abilities far beyond human understanding. Elias realized that this was no ordinary alien. She was intelligent, powerful, and aware of dangers that humans could not even imagine. Elias helped her sit by the edge of the camp. She examined him carefully, her gaze sharp, as if trying to read his intentions. Despite the fear and uncertainty, a strange trust began to form between them. He was her protector now, and she would rely on him, at least until she could explain more. The wind picked up suddenly, carrying with it an eerie sound, almost like whispers across the ice. Elias stiffened. "Did you hear that?" at the girl's eyes widened, and she grabbed his arm. Her grip was firm, warning him silently to stay alert. Something or someone was approaching, and it was not friendly, with surprising speed. She moved to a nearby patch of ice and tapped a series of strange symbols that glowed faintly under her touch. Elias watched in amazement as the symbols activated, projecting a holographic map into the air. It showed a network of locations, some nearby, some far beyond Earth itself. The girl's message was clear. She had been trapped, and there were forces still hunting her. Elias took a deep breath. "I don't know who or what is after you," he said, "but I'll keep you safe." The girl tilted her head, and for the first time, a small, almost human smile appeared on her lips. It was a gesture of understanding, a bond forming between human and alien. Night fell quickly, and the aurora danced across the sky in brilliant colors. The girl curled beside the fire, her body radiating a faint warmth that contrasted with the biting cold. Elias sat across from her, keeping watch, knowing that the real challenge was only beginning. Whatever had trapped her for 6 months, whatever had threatened her existence, it was still out there, and now they were both a target. As Elias drifted into a light sleep, he felt a soft tap on his shoulder. The girl's voice, telepathic and calm, entered his mind once again. "You must trust me. They are coming." Elias' eyes snapped open. He looked at her, determined. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. This alien girl held secrets that could change humanity forever, and he would not let her fall into the wrong hands. The night was silent, but the tension was electric. Somewhere beyond the ice, danger was moving closer, and the first chapter of this extraordinary story was only beginning. The frozen wasteland was quiet, but the tension between Elias and the alien girl was growing. Each shadow, Each gust of icy wind felt alive, as if the ice itself was watching them. The girl, whom Elias had quietly started calling Lyra, had grown stronger since awakening. Her movements were graceful and deliberate, and her eyes seemed to glow faintly even in the darkness. Elias noticed something strange while checking the supplies. A small cut on his hand from the ice had healed almost instantly after Lyra lightly touched it. He stared in disbelief. You healed me?" he asked. She nodded slightly, her expression calm but serious. Elias realized this was not just a physical recovery. Lyra's powers went beyond anything human science could explain. Curiosity and caution battled within him. He had found an alien being, conscious for 6 months in solid ice, and now she could heal wounds with a touch. But was this a gift or a weapon? Elias knew that understanding her abilities could be the difference between survival and disaster. Suddenly, Lyra's eyes shifted toward the distant horizon. The ice rippled unnaturally, almost like it had a pulse. Elias froze. The temperature dropped further, and he could see frost forming in the air, even around them. Lyra's hands rose slowly, and the frost seemed to bend toward her, forming intricate shapes in the air. Elias' heart raced. She was controlling the ice itself. Before he could react, a shadow darted across the ice. Something was coming fast, deliberate, and dangerous. Elias grabbed a nearby rock, ready to defend them, but Lyra moved before him. She extended her hands, and a wave of energy pulsed outward. The shadow froze mid-step, trapped in an invisible barrier. Elias watched in awe as the unknown figure struggled, powerless against her force. "You can control everything," Elias whispered, both terrified and amazed. Lyra didn't answer with words, but her gaze told him these powers were instinctive, part of her very being. They were not learned, they were survival tools, honed over time and perhaps designed for something far greater than Elias could imagine. As the figure broke free and disappeared into the distance, Elias felt a chill in his chest. "Who are they?" he asked. Lyra looked down, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. Through a sudden telepathic surge, images flooded Elias' mind, flashes of alien hunters, weapons that bent space, and icy prisons where she had been held. She had been hunted long before she was frozen, and now that she was awake, the chase had resumed. Elias swallowed hard. Then we're not safe here. Lyra's eyes shifted toward the northern horizon. She pointed to a dark crevice in the ice, far from their camp. Without hesitation, Elias followed, carrying supplies and staying close. Every step was tense. Every sound could mean danger. He realized that the ice wasn't just a landscape, it was a battlefield, and Lyra was a weapon, but also a target. By nightfall, they reached the crevice. Lyra paused and pressed her hand against the ice wall. Symbols glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Elias leaned closer. The markings were alien, but they seemed to resonate with her energy. The wall slid open slowly, revealing a hidden passage beneath the ice. Elias hesitated, but Lyra stepped forward, confident, as if she had been here before. The passage led deep underground, winding like a frozen labyrinth. As they walked, Elias noticed more subtle signs of her power. Tiny cracks in the ice healed before they could spread. The air seemed warmer, breathable, despite the cold outside. It was as if Lyra's presence was shaping reality around them, bending nature itself to protect them. Suddenly, the ground shook. Elias stumbled. Lyra's eyes blazed, and energy shot from her hands, freezing a massive fissure that had just opened in the floor. "We can't stay here," she projected into his mind. "They are coming, and they are stronger than before." Elias nodded. He now understood the truth. Lyra was not just a survivor, she was a force of nature. And humanity, through him, was about to witness powers far beyond imagination. The question that haunted him was no longer how to keep her alive, but how to survive alongside her in a universe where enemies could strike without warning as they pressed deeper into the labyrinth. Elias realized one undeniable fact. The alien girl had survived 6 months frozen, awakened to a harsh reality, and was now humanity's best chance against threats they could not yet comprehend. And the real adventure, the true test of human courage, was only beginning. The icy labyrinth beneath the frozen wasteland was silent. But Elias could feel the tension pressing against his chest. Every step echoed softly, the walls reflecting the smallest sounds. Lyra led the way, moving with fluid grace, her eyes scanning the shadows as if she could see through the ice itself. Elias struggled to keep up, carrying a small pack with supplies and scanning every corner. He could sense the presence of something sinister following them. The wind from above had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that made the hairs on his arms stand up. Something was hunting them, without warning. A loud crack shattered the quiet. Elias spun around to see a massive shadow sliding through the ice tunnels, moving unnaturally fast. Its form was humanoid but twisted, almost mechanical, with glowing red eyes that pierced the dim light. Elias froze, but Lyra reacted instantly. Her hands rose, and a pulse of energy shot forward, freezing the shadow mid-step. Ice spikes erupted from the ground, trapping it in place. The shadow struggled, but Lyra's energy held it firm. She looked at Elias, telepathically urging him to move. "Run!" Her voice echoed in his mind, calm yet commanding. Elias didn't hesitate. He grabbed her hand, and they dashed deeper into the tunnels, the shadow breaking free just moments behind them. Its movements were fast, calculated, and relentless. Every step it took shook the ice beneath them. Elias realized this was no ordinary predator. These were hunters, probably the same ones who had trapped Lyra in ice for 6 months as they ran. Elias noticed the walls of the labyrinth beginning to shift. Lyra extended her hands, and the ice bent around them, creating temporary barriers that slowed the pursuers. Elias marveled at her control. It was as if the tunnels themselves were alive, responding to her energy. Suddenly, they reached a wide chamber. A faint glow came from the ceiling, illuminating frozen stalagmites that sparkled like glass. The shadow entered the chamber, its red eyes scanning for them. Achilles pressed against the ice wall, heart pounding. Lyra stepped forward, her hands glowing brighter. With a swift motion, she sent a wave of energy across the floor. The ice cracked and reformed into jagged spikes that forced the hunter to retreat. But there was no time to celebrate. Elias noticed smaller shapes moving in the darkness, other hunters emerging, circling them. "Lyra, there are more of them," he shouted. She didn't answer verbally. Instead, she took a deep breath and extended her energy outward. The chamber shimmered as protective barriers rose around them, holding off the first wave of attackers. Elias looked at her in awe. "How can you control so much at once?" He asked, but Lyra only focused, her concentration absolute. The hunters were relentless, but Lyra's powers were stronger than he had imagined. Suddenly, one of the hunters broke through a barrier. It lunged at them, faster than anything Elias had ever seen. Lyra's eyes glowed, and she struck the ice with both hands. The hunter was encased in solid ice, frozen instantly. Elias realized that Lyra's abilities were not just defensive. They could neutralize threats completely, but the danger was far from over. The sound of cracking ice echoed from another tunnel. Elias knew they needed to escape the labyrinth entirely. He grabbed Lyra's hand again. "There's a path above," he said, pointing to a narrow opening leading back to the surface. Lyra nodded, and they sprinted toward it. The climb was treacherous. Loose ice threatened to break beneath their feet, and the wind howled through the crevices. Behind them, the hunters were relentless, breaking through walls and barriers with terrifying speed. Elias and Lyra worked together, moving as one. Lyra used her energy to stabilize the ice, while Elias found the safest path. Finally, they emerged onto the frozen surface. The cold night air hit them like a wall, but it was better than the darkness below. They didn't stop to rest. The hunters reached the surface moments later, their red eyes glowing like torches in the snow. Lyra raised her hands, and a wall of energy shot forward, pushing the hunters back. Elias realized she was buying them time, but not forever, as they ran across the open ice. The aurora painted the sky in green and purple streaks. Elias glanced at Lyra. Despite the exhaustion and fear, she was calm, focused, almost otherworldly. He knew then that survival wasn't just about running. It was about trusting her powers and his own instincts. The night stretched endlessly, but they kept moving. Each step took them further from the labyrinth, further from the hunters, and closer to understanding the secrets Lyra carried. One thing was certain: the chase had only begun, and the frozen alien girl's hidden powers were humanity's greatest hope in the battle that was coming. The cold wind bit at Elias' face as he and Lyra trudged across the endless frozen plains. The night was dark, pierced only by the swirling aurora overhead. Despite the danger behind them, Elias could feel a strange sense of purpose growing. Within him, whatever had frozen Lyra for 6 months, whatever hunted her, it wasn't random, there was a reason. And the ice itself seemed to hide answers, waiting to be discovered. Lyra led the way to a section of the glacier where the ice was, different, thicker, darker, and faintly glowing from within. This place, it is old, she communicated telepathically, images flooding Elias' mind. Ancient structures, towering spires, alien machines, all encased in crystal-clear ice. Elias stumbled over his boots in awe. Could this really be? Real humanity had discovered life before, but this was beyond imagination. They approached cautiously. The ice glimmered under Lyra's touch, responding to her energy. Symbols etched deep inside the frozen walls began to shine, casting pale blue light across the cavern. Elias could see strange devices, half buried in ice, their surfaces smooth and metallic, humming faintly. "What is all this?" he asked. Lyra's eyes glimmered with both sadness and urgency. Through a series of mental images, Lyra revealed part of her story. She had been captured by a group of alien hunters, merciless beings who sought to control her powers. They had frozen her here, in this icy labyrinth, waiting for her abilities to weaken. Yet even in ice, she had survived, conscious for 6 months, learning, observing, and growing stronger. Elias shivered. 6 months of isolation, trapped and aware. Yet she had endured, and more than that, she had prepared as they moved deeper into the icy chamber. Elias noticed something remarkable. The ice seemed almost alive, as if it remembered her. Touching the walls, Lyra activated hidden mechanisms. Panels slid open to reveal alien technology, holographic maps, energy cores, and devices that seemed capable of bending space itself. Elias could barely comprehend it, but one thing was clear: Lyra's presence here was not accidental. She belonged to this place, and it held the secrets that could change the future of humanity. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the ice beneath their feet. Elias steadied himself. "What now?" he asked, panic rising. Lyra's gaze darkened. She projected a mental warning. More hunters were coming, drawn by the energy she was emitting. Elias realized then that the ice was both sanctuary and trap. It could protect them, but only if they understood it tanned fast. Lyra focused, placing her hands on the frozen ground. Symbols and alien scripts glowed brightly, forming a holographic projection that filled the chamber. Elias watched as a series of locations lit up other icy prisons scattered across the planet, all connected in a network. And at the center, a massive energy core, pulsing like a heart. This was the source of her captivity, the key to the hunters. Control, and perhaps the source of her extraordinary abilities. Elias stepped closer, awestruck. "So this is why you were frozen. They wanted this." "Power," Lyra nodded. Through another mental image, he saw the alien hunters manipulating. Energy, trying to harness her abilities to dominate worlds. But she had survived, and now she held knowledge they could never have expected. As they examined the devices, a sudden alarm echoed through the cavern. Red lights flashed. Elias grabbed Lyra's hand, heart pounding. The hunters had found them more. Something had. The ice shifted, creating new paths and barriers as if responding to Lyra's energy. They had only moments to act. Lyra pulled Elias toward a hidden chamber, the final inner sanctum of the glacier. Inside, a massive crystal pulsed with blue energy, resonating with her presence. Elias felt it too, a strange warmth, a hum vibrating through his bones. "This is it," Lyra communicated. "The source. If we control this, we can protect ourselves, and maybe humanity." Elias nodded, realizing the gravity of the moment. The frozen alien girl was not just a survivor, she was a guardian of knowledge and power that could change everything. But controlling it would not be simple. The hunters were relentless, and the ice was both ally and enemy. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the faint sounds of pursuit. Inside, Elias and Lyra prepared themselves. The secrets of the ice were now theirs to uncover, and the next step would test every ounce of courage, skill, and trust they possessed. The wind outside the icy labyrinth screamed like a living thing, carrying with it the unmistakable sound of pursuit. Elias and Lyra stood at the heart of the hidden chamber, facing the massive crystal that pulsed with blue energy. Every instinct told Elias that the hunters were close, and this time, there would be no more running. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter than ever. She stepped in front of Elias, her hands rising slowly. The ice around them shifted, forming jagged walls and towering spikes as if responding to her energy. Elias felt the power in the air. It was raw, alive, and dangerous. He realized then that Lyra was not just protecting herself, she was preparing for battle. The ground trembled. Shadows appeared at the entrance of the chamber. The hunters had arrived, tall, armored beings with red glowing eyes, weapons that shimmered with strange energy. They moved as one, coordinated and precise, showing no fear of the ice or its secrets. Elias gripped a metal pipe, his only weapon. Feeling the weight of the moment, Lyra stepped forward. "Stay behind me," she projected into his mind. Her voice was calm, yet it carried the force of command. Elias obeyed, watching as she raised her hands. A pulse of energy shot from her, palms sending shockwaves across the floor. The hunters staggered, frozen for a moment, but they quickly recovered. Moving faster and more violently, Elias watched in awe as Lyra manipulated the ice around them. Spikes erupted from the ground, forming barriers and cages, freezing some hunters. In place, others tried to advance, but each step was met with invisible forces that pushed them back. Elias realized that this was not just a fight, was a test of will, strength, and intelligence. Lyra's powers were extraordinary. But so were the hunter's strategies. One hunter broke through a barrier and lunged toward Elias. He swung the pipe, but it was too late. Lyra acted instantly. A wave of energy blasted from her chest, sending the hunter crashing into the icy wall. Elias felt the shock of the power reverberate through the chamber. He had never seen anything like this. Humans were never meant to face beings like these, yet here they were, standing together. The battle intensified. Energy clashed against energy. Ice shattered and reformed. Light flashed in brilliant colors, and the sound of cracking ice echoed like thunder. Lyra moved with precision, anticipating every attack. Elias noticed that the hunters seemed to struggle against her abilities. Every time they tried to corner her, the ice itself became a weapon, a shield, or a trap. Elias realized something important. Lyra's powers were linked to the crystal at the center of the chamber. It pulsed in sync with her heartbeat, amplifying her abilities. But the hunters were clever. They began targeting the crystal, aiming to disrupt the source of her strength. Elias knew that if the crystal fell into their hands, all would be lost. Summoning every ounce of courage, Elias acted. He grabbed a small device from the alien technology scattered nearby. Pulse emitter that could temporarily disable the hunter's energy weapons. He activated it, sending a shockwave through the chamber. The hunters staggered, giving Lyra a momentary advantage. She seized the moment, sending a massive surge of energy that encased the remaining hunters in a frozen prison of ice. Breathing heavily, Elias looked at Lyra. She was glowing, exhausted but victorious. The hunters were neutralized, at least for now. The crystal continued to pulse, a reminder that their journey was far from over. Elias knew that the galaxy held more dangers than he could imagine, and Lyra's powers were both a gift and a beacon. To those who sought to control her, Lyra turned to him, her eyes calm yet serious. Through their mental connection, she communicated a single thought. This is only the beginning. The universe will not forgive weakness. We must prepare. Elias nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Humans had faced threats before, but nothing like this. And now, standing in the icy chamber with an alien girl whose powers could shape reality itself, he realized something profound. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and resilience would be tested like never before. Outside, the wind howled, carrying whispers of distant dangers yet to arrive. But inside, Elias and Lyra had survived, and for the first time, they had a chance to control their destiny. The confrontation had ended, but the real war, the struggle for survival, knowledge, and power was only beginning. The icy wind outside the labyrinth had settled into a soft, eerie silence. Elias and Lyra stood together in the heart of the frozen chamber, the massive crystal still pulsing faintly behind them. The hunters had been defeated for now, but the tension in the air remained. The battle was over, yet the war had only begun. Elias looked at Lyra, awe and curiosity mingling in his gaze. We survived, but what now? Who were they really? Lyra's eyes glimmered with a mix of relief and concern. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she projected images into Elias's mind visions of her world. A distant planet filled with towering cities, strange skies, and technology that bent reality itself. He saw the hunters again, but this time in their home environment. They were not just predators. They were an organized force, searching for power to dominate not just one planet, but entire systems. Elias swallowed hard. So this is bigger than Earth, he whispered. Lyra nodded. The alien girl had survived 6 months in ice, not just to protect herself, but because she carried knowledge and abilities that could tip the balance of the universe. And now that she was awake, the hunters would not stop until they had her power. She stepped closer to Elias and placed her hand on the crystal. The energy pulsed stronger than ever, and Elias felt it resonate through the chamber. He realized that Lyra was not only controlling the ice and her own powers, she could influence the crystal itself. It was a living archive of knowledge and energy connected to her life force. Suddenly, a faint tremor ran through the chamber. Elias turned sharply. Shadows moved in the ice outside the labyrinth, distant but unmistakable. More hunters were approaching. Lyra's expression hardened. They are relentless. She communicated telepathically. We have only moments. Elias nodded, a mixture of fear and determination rising within him. He knew humanity could not face these threats alone, but perhaps, with Lyra's guidance, they could stand a chance. He looked at her, seeing not just an alien, but a partner, a guardian, and a key to the survival of both their worlds. Lyra touched the crystal once more, and a holographic map filled the chamber. Locations across the galaxy were highlighted, each marked with energy signatures similar to the one they had discovered here. Elias understood the implication. The hunters had targets everywhere. Lyra's mission was far from over. She had survived ice hunters and isolation, and now she was preparing for a much larger battle. Elias asked, "Can we fight them? Can we stop them?" Lyra projected an image of humans working together with alien technology, forging defenses, and discovering new ways to survive. It was a vision of hope, showing that even in the face of overwhelming power, determination, intelligence, and courage could make a difference. Humans were not weak. They were adaptable, resilient, and resourceful. The crystal pulsed one last time, sending a surge of energy that rippled through the ice and into the night sky. Elias felt it deep in his bones. The hunters would come again, but now they knew that the frozen alien girl was awake, powerful, and ready. Lyra turned to him and whispered telepathically, yet somehow audible, "The universe will test us, but together we will endure." As dawn broke, painting the icy plains with soft pink and orange light, Elias realized something profound. This was not just a story of survival. It was a story of discovery, courage, and human resilience. Humanity had found an alien life form capable of extraordinary powers, and through trust, collaboration, and bravery, they could face even the greatest cosmic threats. But just as he felt a moment of relief, the aurora flickered strangely, revealing a silhouette far on the horizon, a massive figure. Unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Lyra's eyes widened. "They never stop," she projected, her voice steady but urgent. Elias gritted his teeth. The adventure was far from over. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of secrets, but humanity, guided by courage and the unexpected alliance with Lyra, had the chance to make a difference. Elias tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we face them. Together." Lyra nodded. The ice around them shimmered, pulsing with energy, a promise of power, knowledge, and survival. The frozen alien girl had awakened, and with her, humanity's story was only beginning. The hunters were out there, waiting, but for the first time, humans were ready to rise to the challenge. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, a new chapter of HFY had begun.